The world blurred around them, the kaleidoscope of colors fading to a muted hue, the air thick with urgency and fear. "Where are they coming from?" Laelani gasped, urgency wrapping itself around her voice. "I don't know, but they're after you," Desmond replied, his voice steady even as his grip on her tightened. They dashed between stalls, feet pounding against the cobblestone, heartbeats echoing the chaos around them. Laelani felt the raw edge of panic, yet alongside it surged an unexpected thrill, as though this reckless chase was opening doors in her soul she had long kept shut. Desmond led her through a side alley, his lean body agile and assured. They ducked behind a crate, breaths coming in ragged gasps. Desmond's eyes, usually playful, were now fierce and protective, blazing with the need to keep her safe. "We need to find a way out," he said, peering cautiously around the corner. "What do they want?" Laelani whispered, her heart still hammering but slowly calming under the steadiness of Desmond's presence. "Your husband's enemies," he explained, scanning for trouble. "They've caught wind of our meetings. We need to keep moving." As they crouched behind the crates, the thuds of men's boots filled the air, matching the rapid beating of Laelani's heart. Desmond's eyes met hers, a moment electrified with something unspoken, a connection forged through chaos and fear. In that heartbeat, the danger around them only intensified the burgeoning feeling swirling within her. Desmond. Before she could articulate the depth of her gratitude or the swell of burgeoning feelings, a figure emerged too close for comfort. Panic surged anew as Desmond instinctively pulled her closer, a shield between her and the threat. The intruder was thick-set with a hardened face, a sneer betraying too much knowledge. "Look who we have here," he taunted, his voice a low growl. "Thought you could escape, Laelani?" Without hesitation, Desmond stepped forward, ready to confront the threat looming over them. "You don't want to do this," he warned, gathering himself like a coiled spring. The moment grew taut with anticipation, a standoff that reflected both danger and an undeniable intimacy. Laelani's pulse surged, not just from fear, but from the realization of the stakes, her future, her art, her chance at love, wrapped within this man's resolve. "Let's see if you can back that up, pretty boy," the man snarled, advancing. But just as the tension threatened to explode, the distinct sound of a police siren wailed in the distance, slicing through the air like a knife. The intruder hesitated, confusion flashing in his eyes. "Run!" Desmond shouted, breaking the standoff and grabbing Laelani's wrist. They bolted, hearts racing faster than their legs could carry them. The world roared past them, but it felt all too fragile, like the tension between survival and something beautifully dangerous was weaving between them. As they veered into the safety of another alley, Laelani spun to face him, breathless. That was intense. Desmond paused, chest heaving, his gaze piercing through her defenses. "More than intense," he replied, a dangerous allure sparking in his eyes. "But now we know. They'll keep coming." In that moment, as danger loomed, they stood at the precipice of something electrifying. Fear became a current that twisted around them, drawing Laelani closer. The thrill of what they faced was a stark contrast to the shadows of their lives, but in this moment it felt like freedom, a deadly freedom. Desmond leaned in, close enough that she felt the heat of his body, the tension simmering with an unspoken promise. "And we'll face it together." Laelani nodded, the resolve settling around her like armor, a protection against the uncertain road ahead, and deeper, the tantalizing prospect of love forged in the flames of chaos. Scene 12. Confessions in the Rain. The downpour was relentless, drumming against the cobblestone streets, each drop a reminder of their harrowing escape. Desmond and Laelani huddled beneath the awning of a dilapidated awning shop, the smell of damp wood and rust whispering of better days long past. The air was thick with tension, both invigorating and stifling as they glanced at each other, breaths coming rapid and uneven. "What if," Desmond said, his voice barely louder than the rain, "what if this is the moment we decide to stop running?" Laelani's heart twisted painfully in her chest, uncertainty pooling within her. The raindrops slid down her skin, cool against the heat of her flushed cheeks. "What do you want me to say?" "It's not just about running," she replied, her eyes reflecting not just the storm, but the tumult in her heart. Desmond stepped closer, his presence engulfing her as they stood inches apart, the world narrowing to just the two of them. "It's about living, too, Laelani. You deserve to be alive." His right hand reached forward, brushing a raindrop from her brow, an unexpected gesture that sent shivers down her spine. "You don't need to pretend with me." The vulnerability in his eyes, the way they held her gaze, questioning, pleading, left her breathless. "But what does that mean, Desmond? If we choose this, there's no going back." Her palms felt clammy, and she squeezed them to control the tremor that threatened to break free. For a moment, the rain fell heavier, masking the doubt swirling around them. Desmond took a deep breath, the downpour amplifying the urgency of their unspoken fears. What if we embrace it? What if we decide to create our own path, no matter how dangerous? There was a fierce intensity in his voice, a fierce plea she could hardly resist. Laelani tilted her head back, closing her eyes for an instant as the rain splashed against her face. "Desmond," she said softly, "I've spent my entire life being a painting on someone else's wall. How do I just pick up a brush and paint anew?" "I'll help you," he said, the earnestness of his promise folding around her like a comforting cloak. "You're not alone in this. You never have to be." The sincerity of his words undid her composure, and she felt the weight of her tumultuous reality pressing in. Suddenly, the distant sound of laughter intruded, pulling their focus momentarily. Turning to peer through the cascading water, they spotted a small group huddled beneath an awning across the street. It was a mix of Laelani's friends, hair slicked back, laughter bright and infectious even against the gloom. Melina, one of her closest friends, spotted her first, her eyes widening. "Laelani, is that you?" She called out, genuine joy cutting through the dreariness. Desmond's expression hardened, the tension of a hidden threat bubbling just beneath the surface. Laelani glanced from her friends back to Desmond, his jaw tense, and in that instant the fragility of the moment surged. Her friends would be a lifeline, but could they keep her hidden from her husband's reach? "They can't know," she murmured urgently. Desmond nodded, the seriousness returning as he stepped back and shielded her subtly. "Let's not give them a reason to ask questions." He looked back toward her friends, unable to shake the instinct that they'd be drawn to her like moths to a flickering flame. "Desmond, please," Laelani said, desperation seeping into her tone. "I don't want to hide." But it was more than that. She didn't want to lose this spark igniting between them, the connection that felt so real amidst the chaos. The vulnerability they shared pulsed with possibility. "I know," he whispered, his fierce gaze now softened as it shifted back to her. "But if we cultivate this, keep it safe from prying eyes, it may grow into everything we need." He paused, the moment thick with unsaid implications. "We can't let fear dictate what we feel." Desmond took a step closer, the storm swirling around them, but within this shared raindrop cocoon, it was the gravity of his sincerity that made everything else fade. "Laelani, if you're willing to step into the storm, follow me into the wild. I promise you won't regret it." As the laughter from her friends echoed into the rainy night, Laelani felt the thunder within. The weight of fear and hope intertwined, leaving her to wonder. Was there a way to forge a new existence with the man standing before her, even as the shadows of their past loomed? With the storm as her witness, she whispered, "Then let's face it together." Scene 13. The rain drummed lightly against the sprawling windows of Laelani Sinclair's apartment, the sound a soothing contrast to the turmoil brewing within. She leaned against the ornate mantelpiece, fingers absently tracing the smooth curvature of a ceramic vase. "What if he finds out?" she asked, her voice barely rising above the patter of raindrops. Her closest friend, Octavia, perched elegantly on the edge of the cream-colored sofa, her expression a mixture of concern and determination. "You have to be strategic, Laelani. We'll maintain appearances." "It's what he expects," Octavia replied, a hint of steel behind her words. The flickering candlelight cast playful shadows across the room, their dance mirroring the tension that thickened the air. Laelani's gaze drifted out the window, where gray clouds hung low, the world outside brimming with rain-drenched uncertainty. "Keeping up this façade, it's suffocating. I barely recognize myself." She sighed, the weight of her predicament pressing down. Octavia softened, her features illuminating with empathy. "And walking away from all this would be a different kind of suffocation. You know him, you've seen his wrath." She leaned in, eyes intense. "Desmond, on the other hand, think about it, he brings you to life." With a glance toward a framed painting half-finished on an easel, Laelani felt a heaviness in her heart, layered with longing and guilt. "What if I'm just another distraction, an escape for him?" she whispered, not fully convinced of her own words. "Or a muse, perhaps." Octavia offered, her voice teasing out a small smile from Laelani, even in the haze of doubt. "This isn't just about you, Laelani. It's about your art, too. The passion you've locked away, this is your chance to reawaken it." The sound of thunder rumbled in the distance, resonating with Laelani's inner conflict. She turned, eyes fierce. "What if my husband finds the truth? I can't just betray him. He's dangerous." Octavia stood now, her demeanor changing, bravado surging. "And what about the danger of never knowing you could be happy? You've been stuck in his shadow for too long." Her voice rose, an echo of the tempest brewing outside. "You're an artist, not a prisoner. Your soul deserves more than stagnant compliance." A flurry of emotions tangled within Laelani as her heart raced. Octavia's words struck chords she had long ignored. The very thought of breaking free, of knowing the thrill of painting her own life, was intoxicating. "We have to be careful. If he gets a hint," she murmured, glancing toward the door, where the world outside loomed. "Then he won't." Octavia replied, resolute. "We'll implement the plan. You'll host the gala, darling under the guise of honoring his connections in the community. Use that as a cover. Invite Desmond discreetly. It'll be the perfect opportunity to keep the peace with your husband while exploring that connection." Laelani's breath quickened at the suggestion, then uncertainty clouded her thoughts. "And what then? I can't just—" "Why not? You know there's something. You can feel it," Octavia interrupted, a spark of mischief in her eyes. "You're both drawn to this electrical current, something that could ignite into a blaze. Besides, it's an act, one he won't suspect." Nervously brushing a lock of hair behind her ear, Laelani considered the chaos. The gala, Desmond's gaze heavy with unspoken words. "And what if he notices? What if— I can't bear the thought of him finding out about my feelings for Desmond." "Then we'll handle it together. The storm's approaching, Laelani," Octavia said resolutely. "But it can also be cleansing. You have a choice, that's your power, a way to chart your own destiny." Laelani shot a glance out the window again, the rain washing over the city like tears, a cleansing, painful reminder of what she stood to risk. "Let's do it then," Laelani finally said, the tranquility in her voice revealing a steely determination. "For art, for me." Across town, Desmond Carver adjusted the collar of his tailored jacket, his mind filled with visions of stormy nights and passionate encounters as he prepared to confront the devil lurking behind Laelani's opaque façade. A plan was brewing, one he hoped would resonate with promises of liberation, freedom, and the fervency of reclaimed passion. Laelani steadied her breath, knowing now that the path ahead would blur boundaries, stir storms, and entangle hearts in ways she could never have predicted. "Are you ready?" Octavia asked, her smile mirroring Laelani's plume of newfound hope. "Ready or not, it's time to live," Laelani whispered, a spark ignited, the air tinged with electricity and unspoken desires teetering on the brink of the unknown. Scene 14. The Gala. The grand ballroom shimmered with golden light, chandeliers casting intricate shadows across the polished marble floor. Laelani Sinclair adjusted her deep emerald gown, the fabric hugging her curves, a vibrant splash against the white backdrop of the gala. A superficial normalcy blanketed the room. Laughter cascaded like bubbles, yet a tension threaded through the air, almost tangible. Her husband, Ezekiel Sinclair, the powerful crime boss she had married out of obligation, stood across the room, engaging in a conversation with one of his associates, his posture erect and authoritative. Laelani's gaze caught his sharp, calculating eyes, a silent reminder of the life she was tethered to. "Are you enjoying the evening, Laelani?" came a melodic voice, pulling her aside. It was her friend Camille, radiating confidence in a shimmering red dress that complemented her curls. "You look stunning as usual, but I sense something's off with you tonight." Laelani forced a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, you know how it is. Just the usual obligations." The clinking of glasses and an impromptu toast by Ezekiel echoed through the opulent space. "Obligations?" Camille raised an eyebrow, leaning in closer. "You mean the anchor that keeps you chained here? Or the captivating man lurking like a shadow in the corner?" She nodded discreetly toward Desmond, lingering at the edge of the crowd, a sharp contrast against the luxury surrounding him, intense, brooding, yet magnetic. The heat of Laelani's cheeks flushed in contradiction to the chill that gripped her. Desmond's dark eyes met hers for a brief moment, igniting a warmth that spread through her, yet danger lurked behind that intensity. Cut the chase, Laelani. Camille smirked, scanning the room. I know that look. Are you going to let him sweep you away, or are you content in this gilded cage? As if summoned, Desmond began to weave closer. You really should smile more, Laelani, he said, his voice low and teasing, a daring spark against the night's refined veneer. It's a gala, not a funeral. Laelani's heart raced. And what if this gala feels like a courtroom? Desmond, I'm on trial here. Desmond chuckled, but the amusement faded as he stepped closer, their bodies inches apart. Everyone's watching, love, he murmured, glancing towards Ezekiel, who seemed preoccupied with a business deal. For the wrong reasons. A tight knot of fear and thrill coiled in Laelani's stomach. You really think I won't get caught? Not if you want to dance the night away, he replied, offering his hand. Or if you want something more. The orchestra played a soft waltz, and, against logic, like a moth to flame, Laelani accepted his hand, her heart skipping. As they spun onto the dance floor, the energy shifted around them. They twirled effortlessly, momentum building as they lost themselves amid the crowd. The scent of his cologne mingled with the sweet candor of the evening, igniting their shared tension. Across the room, Ezekiel narrowed his eyes, a hawk observing its prey. He exchanged murmured words with Malik, a highly placed member of his inner circle, a hint of discontent passing between them. Laelani felt the weight of Ezekiel's gaze, a noose tightening around her. Yet Desmond's hand on her waist sent adrenaline coursing through her veins, reckless abandon overpowering caution. You're a temptation I can't resist, Laelani whispered, brushing perilously close to losing herself. Then let's not resist, Desmond replied, a fire sparking in his smile. Their bodies drew nearer, a gravitational pull that drew the world around them into a blur. Electric anticipation crackled in the few inches separating them. But before the moment could tip into something irrevocable, the orchestra shifted into a solemn piece, reminding her of the truth, the dangers lurking just out of sight. The heat of passion melded sharply with the chill of fear, and she pulled back, breathless. I can't. Her voice faltered, a tremor betraying her inner turmoil. If Ezekiel sees... Desmond's gaze darkened, but his voice remained playful despite the tension. Then let's not give him the pleasure of finding out what we are or could be. And as their eyes locked, the distance between their desires hung in the air, tantalizing yet perilously acute. Laelani's heart raced as she dared to imagine a world outside her gilded cage, yet the worry of betrayal loomed heavy. In the crackling silence that followed, she knew a dance of secrets had only just begun. Scene 15. A betrayal exposed. The grand ballroom shimmered beneath a crystal chandelier, the atmosphere heavy with laughter and lingering perfume. Laelani Sinclair stood at the edge of a swirling sea of silk and satin, the vibrant hues of the guests creating a kaleidoscope against the pale marble of the floor. She felt a dissonance, the hum of the gala contrasting sharply with the tempest inside her. Tonight was meant to be a celebration, but the weight of her secrets tethered her spirit, refusing her fully into the revelry. As she adjusted her clutch, the cool leather against her palm momentarily grounded her thoughts. Laelani glimpsed the dance floor where her husband, Cyril Sinclair, commanded attention, a towering figure in a tailored suit, his smile broad and disarming. But beneath that veneer, there simmered a restlessness, a dangerous shadow tracing the contours of their life together. Are you all right, my lady? Desmond's voice broke through her reverie, a jolt of warmth beneath the coolness of the evening. He leaned casually against a nearby column, an intriguing blend of nonchalance and fierce intelligence radiating from him. His deep-set eyes sparkled, but tension coiled in the air, palpable and electric. Yes, Laelani replied, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her resolve. Their shared moments swirled in her mind, a firestorm of passion and an undeniable connection that lured her like a moth to flame. Here among the opulence it felt wrong, yet so undeniably right. I wasn't certain you'd remember me in the company of all this. He gestured to the extravagance around them, his teasing tone masking something deeper. The thrill of their stolen moments surged within her. the echo of whispered secrets and tender gazes in the corners of dimly lit rooms. "It's hard to forget someone who challenges me," she said, allowing a smile to bridge the chasm of uncertainty. But the laughter of the gala patrons felt like a distant mocking. In that moment, how could she breathe, let alone think about her future? Suddenly, an ear-piercing crash rang out. Cyril had toppled a table, his jovial façade stripped away. "What is the meaning of this?" he thundered, eyes ablaze with fury, cutting sharply through the chatter. Silence fell. Rippling through the guests like a sudden gale, Laelani's heart raced as every eye turned toward her. "Nothing," she had time to whisper before Cyril's gaze darted to Desmond, suspicion flaring. His voice dropped as he said, "You." The word dripped with contempt. Desmond's posture straightened, the casual demeanor masked the tension roiling in his veins. "Respectfully, sir. Do not address me." Cyril spat, electricity sparking between them. The competition in strength and will was palpable, neither willing to back down, and Laelani felt her heart race anew, caught in the undertow of loyalty and desire. "Cyril, let's not." Laelani stepped forward, her voice steady on the surface but turbulent underneath. "This isn't the time or place for this." "Right. Because a lover's quarrel is better managed in the privacy of our home?" Cyril's laugh was humorless, slicing through the decorum of the gathering. The guests whispered feverishly. She could already sense eyes narrowing, questions forming, the social stakes elevating. Then, in a cold flash, a woman, a mutual acquaintance, her skin illuminated in a gilded gown, pointed at Laelani. "I saw you with him earlier, in the garden. You thought no one would notice?" Desmond's hand brushed Laelani's arm, a protective gesture as tension gripped her muscles. The unspoken accusation hung heavy in the air. Laelani's chest tightened, her uncertainty morphing into clear panic. One slip, one moment of doubt, had spiraled into exposed truths that could unravel her world. "Not now, Tess," Cyril snapped, his voice tinged with choking indignation. Laelani stole a glance at Desmond, whose face had hardened, the corner of his mouth betraying a hint of regret. "Cyril, I made a mistake. You cannot control who I—" Instead of recognizing her heart, Cyril focused solely on the encroaching chaos. "A mistake? With him? What else have you hidden from me?" His voice dropped low, a menacing whisper that pricked at the edges of her resolve. In that moment, Laelani felt the weight of every flirtation, every lingering glance shared with Desmond, and the truth that had long clung to her like a shroud. Would her desire lead her to freedom, or would it ensnare her in a web of betrayal? The answer hung in the air between them, heavy with implications. The gala, once a lavish celebration, transformed into a battlefield where loyalties could snap like threads. Desmond stepped closer, the space between them crackling with unspoken promises and failed choices. "We need to talk, Laelani." Her heart thundered, torn between a desire for escape and the claustrophobic safety of familiarity. Laughter echoed around them, a haunting reminder of the normalcy they both knew they could never return to after tonight. As whispers evolved into mounting suspicion, Laelani inhaled sharply, her world fracturing. Where did her heart truly lie? What price was she willing to pay for honesty? "Will you stand by me?" she dared to ask, her voice barely a murmur over the swell of the gala, each word feeling like a pebble cast into turbulent waters, creating ripples that would fan the flames of an impossible choice. Scene 16, diving deeper. The rain poured down in sheets, drumming a frenzied rhythm against the expansive windows of Laelani's sprawling penthouse. Inside, the warmth of flickering candlelight met the chill from the outside, creating an atmosphere heavy with anticipation and unspoken truths. The sound of distant thunder echoed through the air, mirroring the turmoil in Laelani's heart. Desmond stood by a canvas, the one Laelani had recently abandoned, a vibrant swirl of colors that mirrored her chaotic emotions. He turned slightly, his eyes glinting with curiosity. "You used to pour yourself into your work. What happened to that passion?" She fought against the rising tide of vulnerability that threatened to overwhelm her. "A rain-soaked dark cloud appears without warning, Desmond. Sometimes it makes you freeze instead of creating." He stepped closer, lingering at the edge of her space with an intensity that sent a shiver racing down her spine. "You keep pretending your life is perfect, but it's not. I see the cracks." His gaze softened momentarily, like a hand reaching out to soothe. Laelani's breath caught in her throat, and the words tumbled out before she could rein them in. Do you want me to fight it all, desperately grasping for a color that has slipped away? I'm trying to figure out who I am beyond this. The wave of frustration in her voice was palpable, her hands trembling slightly as she gestured toward the scene outside. The rain intensified, a downpour of raw emotion binding the space. Desmond's voice dropped to a murmur, barely audible above the noise. I know about feeling trapped, Laelani. It's easier to give up than to fight. But what do you truly desire? Before she could answer, the door swung open, and her best friend, Taryn, burst in, drenched and wide-eyed. You would not believe the scandal brewing at the gala. You need to see this. Her excitement seeped into the atmosphere, a sudden infusion of chaos amid the brewing storm. Laelani's annoyance flickered but was quickly replaced by curiosity. What did you hear? Before Taryn could respond, an indignant, high-pitched voice echoed from the hallway. There you are, Laelani. Do not act like you've been here all alone. It was Gloria, Laelani's mother-in-law, her entry as imposing as the relentless rain. Desmond raised an eyebrow, shifting his stance as if bracing for a confrontation, but Laelani's pulse raced with the thrill of uninvited tension. Surprise, I'm not lonely, Gloria. Laelani shot back with surprising boldness. And this man? Gloria hissed, throwing her hands up as if warding off a ghost. You think bringing home your driver is a good idea? You're making a fool of yourself. Laelani stepped forward, feeling the heat rise. This is Desmond. He's not a fool, and frankly, I'm tired of everyone thinking they know what's best for me. Taryn grabbed Laelani by the arm, her voice drowning out the escalating argument. Yes, and the gala. There's a rift. It's between your husband and Enrique. It's going to explode. In the back of the room, Desmond's expression hardened as he took in this new information, the hint of a smirk appearing on his lips. Sounds like a delightful evening, he remarked dryly. Delightful or disastrous? Laelani countered, almost absent-minded in the chaos forming around her. And I've had enough of standing by while my life spirals out of control. Desmond's attention shifted to her, the weight of his gaze igniting something they both pretended not to acknowledge. So what's stopping you? Let's paint chaos together. The metaphor hung heavily between them, and for a moment they shared a silent understanding, each recognizing the shadows lurking within their own hearts and the painful possibility of stepping into the light. Desmond, Laelani started, her voice barely above a whisper, laden with emotion. You don't know what you're asking. Maybe I do, he interrupted softly, his eyes searching hers with a fierce intensity. Or maybe we both need to dive deeper and discover what awaits beneath the surface. Suddenly, Gloria's laughter cut through the tension. Dive deeper? Laelani, those are ridiculous notions. Why would you let this boy lead you astray? But Laelani stood firm, her heart racing with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Because for once, I want to choose my path. As the storm raged outside, Laelani forged ahead, the weight of her choices pressing upon her as fiercely as the rain against the windows, unsure of where the tides would finally take her. The room pulsed with energy, stories intertwining and suspicions simmering, each heartbeat signaling that something had irrevocably shifted within them all. The daunting promise of transformation loomed large as they stood at the precipice of everything uncharted, where secrets, desires, and choices tangled in a wild dance. She turned to Desmond, determination in her voice, knowing that whatever lay ahead would demand strength neither had known they possessed. Let's see what we can uncover together. Scene 17. Loyalty Tested. The flickering light from the chandelier cast a fractured glow over the opulent dining room as Laelani leaned against the mahogany table, her fingers fidgeting with the edge of the lace tablecloth. Why should I trust you, Leo? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, yet crackling with tension. Her husband, Leo Sinclair, stood across from her, his figure looming, casting a shadow as dark as the secrets he kept. You should know by now, Laelani, he said, his tone low and persuasive. Loyalty is the currency of this world. Without it, we have nothing. His eyes, a steely, cold blue, seemed to pierce through her resolve, yet there was an unmistakable warmth in the set of his jaw, a sharp contradiction. As he stepped closer, the air thickened with unspoken truths. Laelani's heart raced. She felt the weight of his life pressing down on her like a vice, binding her in place. But at what cost? She replied, her sincerity crashing against his implacable demeanor. A clenching in her chest signaled the disparity between her obligations and her desires. It was a chaos she couldn't articulate. Leo studied her, his expression unreadable. The tendons in his neck strained as he took a deep breath. "You know I protect you, Laelani. Every decision I make is to ensure our safety." He shifted, an urgency creeping into his posture, the appeal of his words mingling with an undercurrent of menace. Her thoughts darted to Desmond, the man whose very presence felt like both an anchor and a storm. As if summoned by her heart's lament, Desmond emerged from the shadows, stepping into view just beyond the dining room's arched doorway. His dark eyes flickered with a mixture of concern and determination as he caught the tail end of their conversation. "And what if your protection comes with chains?" Desmond challenged, his voice strong yet tender, resonating against the polished walls. A charged silence enveloped the room, punctuated only by the distant sounds of pouring rain succumbing to an impending tempest outside. Laelani's pulse quickened, torn between the two men who represented starkly different futures. The passion in Desmond's eyes was undeniable. With each passing moment, she found her barriers crumbling under the weight of his gaze, his intensity both exhilarating and terrifying. Leo turned, frustration simmering beneath his calm façade. "You think you can waltz in here, Desmond, and play the savior? You know nothing of this world." His voice thundered, breaking the tension like glass shattering against the floor. Desmond remained unfazed, his back straightening as he faced Leo. "And you think controlling her is the answer? She's not an accessory for your empire." The earnestness in his tone felt like a pledge, a promise to see her for who she truly was. Caught between the bluster of Leo's power and Desmond's allure, Laelani sensed the abyss yawning before her, inviting her to leap. It was a dance on the edge of a chasm filled with potential disaster. "Enough!" Laelani finally exclaimed, a break in her usual composure sending ripples of surprise through both men. "You both act like this is your battle." She felt the rush of fierce independence surge within her, challenging the gravity of their expectations. "You don't see the woman standing here, not just a pawn to move on a board." The tension in the room shifted, making space for her defiance. The dim light illuminated her complexion, casting an ethereal glow around her. Leo's façade slipped just a fraction, revealing a vulnerability she rarely witnessed. "What do you want, Laelani?" he asked, the bravado waning. A beat passed, filled with the chaos of uncharted territory. Laelani exhaled slowly, envisioning a future that hummed with freedom tinged with danger. "I want to breathe, to create, to be loved without the shadows." She locked eyes with Desmond, the weight of her words threading their shared history into something raw and profound. Desmond took a step forward, the space between them crackling like electricity. "Then choose, Laelani. Choose who you want to be." As she contemplated her answer, thunder rumbled outside, resonating the tumult inside her heart. Would she leap into an unknown future, or remain shackled to the man who both adored and controlled her? Caught in the tension of the moment, Laelani drew a deep breath. The choice loomed large, demanding resolution. "Perhaps," she began, the world spinning around her, "the time for trust has come, but not as you think." Scene 18. Force of confrontation. The air in the dimly lit warehouse crackled with electricity, thick with the scent of oil and the distant echo of footsteps against concrete. Desmond Carver leaned against a towering steel beam, arms crossed, his dark eyes piercing the shadows towards the man who had just emerged from obscurity like a specter. Laelani's husband, Regency Sinclair, was a formidable figure, a reputation built on whispered dread and ruthless ambition. "Do you really think you can just waltz in here and question my operation?" Raheem's voice was a low growl, reverberating off the cold walls, filled with the kind of menace that made the air grow heavier. "It's not a question of waltzing," Desmond replied with a sardonic smile, unfazed. "It's about understanding the consequences of your choices that affect my life." Raheem's lips twisted into a smirk, but there was a flicker in his dark eyes, a moment of uncertainty that betrayed his confidence. "You think you can play in my world, Carver? You're nothing but a glorified driver for a woman, a flower that grows in the dark." In the backdrop, the low hum of machinery droned, a reminder of the underbelly of existence that surrounded them. Desmond's heart raced, fueled by the adrenaline coursing through his veins. He had seen what the darkness could do, the violence, the lies, and the devastating grip it held on souls. Your flowers don't know the dangers of the garden they dwell in, Desmond shot back, a fire igniting in his belly. Laelani isn't just a pretty face, she creates beauty out of chaos. You're suffocating her. At the mention of Laelani's name, Rahim's demeanor shifted. His eyes darkened and a tremor of vulnerability whispered through his tough exterior. You think you're protecting her? You think all this, he gestured expansively to the grim surroundings, is for her? You know nothing about loyalty. A noise from the shadows caught Desmond's attention, and in that fleeting moment, his resolve momentarily waned. But just like the stillness that breaks before a storm, Rahim's moment of weakness was fleeting. Loyalty or fear? Desmond challenged, stepping closer, an electric tension building between them. Suddenly, a shout broke through, a piercing voice calling for Rahim, shattering the fragile moment. "Boss! We found them!" A group of Rahim's men burst into the room, their faces set with urgency and anger. Desmond's instincts kicked in, adrenaline heightening as he spun on his heel. "We need to go," he said firmly, his gaze intense on Rahim, who remained rooted, eyes flickering between the approaching men and the resolve in Desmond's stance. "What's happening?" Rahim hissed, looking annoyed but momentarily distracted. His bravado cracked in the face of uncertainty. "Michael has moved against you," one of the men said, panic rippling through his voice. "He's mobilizing others ready for a strike." This was the opening Desmond needed. "You're losing control, Rahim. Fighting battles on too many fronts. You need to fortify your walls." "Walls can't keep out everything," Rahim replied, the tension in his voice rising. "And you? How much do you know, really? Enough to risk your life?" Desmond stepped closer, dangerously low, locking eyes with Rahim. "I didn't come here for a death wish. I came here for Laelani's safety and mine." A low thrum of trust and animosity surfaced, blending together in a precarious balance. Desmond could feel it in his bones. A whisper of the romantic tension that simmered beneath their conflict, dangerously close to erupting. But just then, the atmosphere shifted again. The warehouse door slammed open with a violent crash, the sound echoing through the space like thunder. A flurry of confused shouts erupted from Rahim's men as they scrambled at the sight of approaching figures. The rival crew led by Michael's men, armed and ready for a fight. Desmond's heart raced as he turned back to Rahim. "We don't have time for this. We work together, now." Rahim hesitated only a second, fury battling with something unbidden, a flicker of respect buried beneath layers of pride. "Fine. But when this is over, you and I need to have a real conversation." Before Desmond could respond, Laelani stepped into the doorway, eyes wide with shock and determination, her presence demanding attention. "Desmond, what are you doing?" "Protecting you," Desmond replied quietly, feeling the undeniable pull of their connection, the intense longing he tried to suppress, their gazes locked, charged with an unspoken promise. For a fraction of a moment, the chaos around them faded as gravity pulled them together. Laelani took a step forward, vulnerable yet fierce. "I want to be part of this," she declared, defiance harsh and beautiful in her voice. "Then hold on tight," Desmond breathed, and as their lips finally met in a desperate unison, the world fell away, alive, vibrant, and perilously close to becoming undone. The kiss was electric, a moment suspended in time, echoing the chaos around them. In that fleeting embrace, there was hope and danger all at once, racing against the tide of uncertainty that threatened to engulf them. They parted just in time to prepare for what lay ahead, a force of confrontation, alive with passion and fraught with peril. Scene 19. Storm before the calm. Laelani stood in the half-light of her studio, her back to the door, paintbrush poised over an untouched canvas. The world outside her window blazed with autumn color, oranges and golds clashed against a slate-gray sky. A storm threatened. She felt it in her bones as she heard the soft click of the door behind her. "Is it true?" Desmond's voice, smooth and deep, textured with concern, wrapped around her like a warm fog. She hesitated, her breath caught in the balance of truth and deceit. "What have you heard?" Her voice was steady, masking the tumult within, unyielding like the thick paint that encrusted her brushes. Desmond stepped closer, the faint scent of cedar and midnight rain wafting off him, pulling her. "That he's going to." "Stop." She whirled to face him, eyes sharp with defiance. "I won't hear it." A pause lingered, thickening the air. In that silence, she saw his brow furrow, the way he fought against his instinct to reach for her. His fingers flexed at his side, betraying the fighting spirit that defined him, the rogue feeling he exuded, the man who lived at the edges of her undeniable passion. But she had a husband, an empire built on fear and power. You don't understand, Desmond, if he gets wind of our conversations. Her voice softening, uncertain. I can protect you, he insisted, stepping forward as thunder rumbled outside, echoing her heart's frantic rhythm. We've played this game longer than most. Laelani, tell me, what would he do if he found us? The question hung between them, vibrant with unspoken fears and desires. The door swung slightly, rattling with the wind as if it too sensed the turmoil. Laelani's heart raced. She longed for his arms around her. Desmond, you know what he's capable of. Her voice trembled like the dying light. He won't hesitate. He's dangerous. Dangerous? Yes. His gaze pierced through her vulnerability with a heated intensity that left her breathless. But so are we. You can't stay shackled by his shadows forever. Her resolve cracked like a fragile porcelain vase. And what would you have me do? Run away? Abandon everything? My life? My art? My responsibilities? The weight of her situation crashed over her like the looming storm. Responsibilities? Desmond echoed bitterly. To a man who doesn't see the brilliance in you? Your art is your soul, Laelani, and you're losing it in your gilded cage. The quiet between them erupted, an electric tension pulsing in the air. Laughter erupted from the adjacent room. A group of Laelani's artist friends flung bright anecdotes in playful defiance against the encroaching storm. What if we all got together for a retreat and painted the chaos we crave? One voice chimed, infectious and buoyant. Desmond turned instinctively toward the noise, his jaw tightening. That's the escape you're looking for, isn't it? A snapshot of life outside these walls. His eyes met hers again, unwavering, but gentler now, a man willing to fight for her. It's not just about what you feel, it's about fighting together. Together, she repeated, the word tasting foreign on her tongue. Yes, and with no more secrets. His eyes darkened, and she felt a rush of emotions churn beneath the surface. Your heart belongs to art, Laelani, and maybe, just maybe to me. But shadows lurk, and we can't hide forever. Across the studio, a ping of laughter from her friends cut like a knife through the tension. They floated through the door, bursting with reckless joy, joy that felt so far from Laelani's heart. Coral, with hues reminiscent of spring flowers, grabbed Desmond's arm playfully. Don't scare her off, Des. We need Laelani's magic for our next piece. Laelani's eyes darted between Desmond and Coral, the weight of the moment heavier than any brush she'd ever wielded. Magic, she whispered, the word sounding almost ethereal. I'm losing my grip. Desmond stepped closer, inches apart, breathing the same electrified air. Then let my chaos complement yours. Outside, the storm burst free, a wild cacophony of wind and rain, the tempest a stark mirror to the turmoil within. With each thundering boom, Laelani felt the impulse to make a choice, an escape from her constraints danced just within reach. Come with me. Desmond's voice was a silken whisper in her ear, a promise cloaked in danger. You know I can ignite the flame within you. As she stared into his determined eyes, she wondered if tonight would become the beginning or the very end of everything she ever knew. Scene 20. A fragile alliance. The sun hung low in the sky, painting the luxurious kitchen of Laelani Sinclair's penthouse in vibrant hues of orange and gold. Laelani stood at the marble island, slicing fresh fruits with meticulous precision. The rhythmic sound of the knife against the cutting board echoed through the otherwise quiet space. Each cut felt like a step toward clarity, a simple task grounding her tumultuous thoughts. She stole a glance at her reflection in the oven glass, a face filled with unease, shadowed by a cruel paradox, the weight of her loveless marriage and the spark ignited by Desmond Carver. Need help with that? Desmond appeared in the doorway, his presence a magnetic force that momentarily dispelled her whirlwind of guilt. No, it's fine, she replied, her voice dancing between resolve and uncertainty. The air seemed thicker, charged with an unspoken tension that left her breathless. He stepped closer, his dark eyes flickering with concern. Are you sure? You look like a storm about to break. There it was again, that uncanny ability of his to peel back her defenses with just a few words. Laelani huffed softly, feigning indifference as she juggled strawberries and blackberries. just trying to get more color into his diet. The lie lingered in the air like the aroma of warm cinnamon from the nearby oven, sweet yet bitter. Desmond leaned against the counter, arms crossed, his gaze piercing. "You're not fooling anyone, Laelani. This isn't about your husband, it's about you." His voice lowered, rich and magnetic. "What do you want?" She paused, overwhelmed by the weight of the question. Her heart raced against a cage made of duty and heartbreak. In that moment, vulnerability slipped through her armor, and she allowed herself to breathe. "I don't know. I want more." Her voice cracked, the admission dissolving into the tense silence. Desmond took a step closer, his expression softening. "You can have more, you know?" "I can't," Laelani argued, fear choking her resolve. "What about your plans? This alliance is fragile." She felt the knot in her stomach tighten. The stakes were high, and desire felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. "Plans evolve," he countered, his proximity igniting a warmth that enveloped them both. "What if we work together?" His voice lowered, throaty and inviting, curling around her like a soft shawl. "I'd protect you, Laelani. I wouldn't let anyone harm you." Just then the phone vibrated violently on the counter, a stark reminder of the world outside their delicate bubble. Laelani snatched it up, glancing at the screen, a message from her husband. Instantly, tension washed over her like a chilling wave. Desmond sensed her anxiety and reached for her wrist, grounding her. "Look at me." His tone was firm yet soothing, a stark contrast to the chaos around them. "You are stronger than you think. Whatever he's done, you're not trapped." With the phone still in her hand, Laelani felt the gravity of his words. Closing her eyes, she inhaled deeply, the sense of citrus and coffee mingling, a reminder of their shared moments. "And if I want to leave? If I really want to be free?" The question hung precariously between them. Desmond's gaze steeled, determination radiating from him. "Then we make a plan, together." But beneath the surface, echoes of doubts rippled through her. What would that mean? The life she knew, or the uncharted waters of rebellion? Suddenly, the peaceful bubble burst. A heavy thud resonated down the corridor, voices and footsteps approaching like a brewing storm. Laelani's heart quickened. "It's him," she whispered, panic sparking in her chest. Desmond's grip tightened, both reassuring and urgent. "Stay calm. Let me handle this." "Handle what?" came a cool voice from behind them. Laelani's body stiffened as she turned to see her husband, a figure draped in tailored darkness, filled with a menacing presence. "What's going on here?" Without missing a beat, Desmond stepped forward, shielding her, a silent statement of defiance. "Laelani and I were just discussing." "Discussing?" Her husband interrupted smoothly, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "It looks more like you're plotting, Desmond, and we all know what happens to traitors." Tension thickened the air, every breath heavy with the weight of unspoken threats. Laelani watched, torn between desire and fear, as chaos loomed on the edges of their fragile alliance. Yet, in that fleeting moment, one thing rang true in her heart. The desire for freedom had just begun to intertwine with passion, a newfound intensity binding them amidst rising dangers. As her husband's gaze bore into them, Laelani whispered to herself, "What must I choose?" Scene 21. Unraveling tensions. The air in Laelani's sun-drenched studio felt heavy, a tension that crackled like static electricity. She stood at the large bay window, gazing down at the bustling street below, the distant laughter and clattering of dishes from the bistro murmuring against her ears. It grounded her momentarily, but the chaos of her thoughts loomed larger. "What do you really want, Laelani?" Desmond's voice broke through, low and urgent. He paced the room, an electric presence, his dark curls bouncing slightly with each step. His eyes hovered over her, searching, but she avoided his gaze. "I want," she paused, biting her lip as she turned back to face him, the sunlight illuminating their shared shadows on the hardwood floor. "I want to understand what this is." Desmond stepped closer, his body language shifting from urgency to an elegance that belied the turmoil around them. The way he leaned against the wall, arms crossed, was a careful mix of casual and electric. "What do you mean? This us? Or are we talking about that gala?" The word gala hung in the air, heavy with subtext. The echoes of strained conversations and whispers about her husband's business dealings floated through her mind. "It's all tangled, isn't it? Every choice I've made, every person I've let in, it's all just a tangle of lies." "Maybe it only feels tangled because you won't unravel it," Desmond replied, his intensity unwavering. He took a half step toward her, and her heart raced in response, exhilaration mixed with fear. What are you truly afraid of, Laelani? Losing control or finding freedom? The question landed like a stone on her chest, heavy and undeniable. She inhaled sharply, the scent of oil paint mingling with fresh flowers from the vase nearby. Freedom isn't just a step out the door, Desmond. It's a leap into the unknown. And if I jump, can you promise you'll catch me? Desmond's expression softened momentarily, revealing a glimmer of something deeper within him. Yet, the flicker of emotion was quickly masked by the intensity already in his gaze. I can't promise anything, but I would never let you fall. Their eyes locked, and the unspoken weight of their attraction thickened the space between them. Laelani felt the warmth rise in her cheeks, a blush that clashed with the cool shadow of her uncertainty. They were swaying on the precipice of something, and the air felt electric. Outside, the laughter morphed into a cacophony, shattering the moment. It broke the illusion that they were safe in their bubble, away from the world. Desmond's clenched jaw told her he felt it too, the pressure of reality creeping back in. You don't know my life, Desmond. You don't know how far I've fallen, she shouted, the panic surfacing again, spilling over into the air, wiping away the romance of the moment.